in a world where every week there's a new, extreme, restrictive, unique diet, two men, two coaches are here to teach you that they're bullshit. Ooh, just cursing again out of the gate. We're demonetized.
My goodness. Oh my gosh.
Even though we're not monetized on anything. But
Not
yeah,
after
that's no, and last week's episode. But I kind of like the cursing, honestly. It adds flavor, which is it's like adding paprika or turmeric or some garlic to your food, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about nutrition. We're talking about nutrition, but specifically, we're talking about that thing where people is like, nutrition for fat loss. It's all in the kitchen. And you know what? We're actually here to tell you that it's not all in the kitchen. It's in the kitchen, but you know where else it's at, Ryan? Nutrition for fat loss, you know where else it's at?
Where's it at, brother?
It's in your brain, brother. It's in your freaking brain. Habits, behaviors, honestly, culture, society. That stuff is like low-key something that people don't really talk about when it comes to nutrition for fat loss and dieting and all the above. So today we're going to touch on all that and the the nitty-gritty, the science stuff. We're going to give you some cool protocols and some things that you can do if you're looking to change up or spice up your nutrition to facilitate fat loss, which is important for longevity and everything else. I guess I want to start out today with just what is your favorite restrictive diet? Like the one, it could either be like one that you actually have enjoyed doing in the past or one in which when you first heard of it, you're like, wow, this is the most ridiculous, stupid fucking thing I've ever heard of in my life. And I can't believe people are doing this, but they are. So what do you got for me?
I would say like carnivore is pretty crazy. Like I know people do it and like they say they feel really cool, they feel good, and I'm not here to tell you like don't do whatever you want at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like hey, that makes you happy, like sick, awesome. But it's just crazy to be like, yeah, no fruits, no vegetables, like absolutely no vegetables because vegetables is like poison. And we're only going to eat like red meat, only steak. That's an example of something that is like pretty dang restrictive, and it just kind of baffles me. I haven't done it. I haven't tried it because I don't know, pretty intuitively I'm like, yeah, it's like, okay, you're telling me that don't eat vegetables? Like I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Carnivore is wild. I remember the first time I heard of carnivore was on Joe Rogan's podcast where he was interviewing Jordan Peterson's daughter. And quick disclaimer, I know some of you just heard me say those names, and this was like probably 5 or 6 years ago before all of these people were like super conservative and far right and just insane. So, I don't subscribe to those ideologies. I mean, we're just gonna come out and say it, dude. I'm freaking liberal. I'm progressive as hell, and yeah, I love it. But anyways, so that's when I first heard of it, and she was on there and she was talking about how, I think she had some autoimmune diseases, and she went carnivore and she got better. And I don't know if she was lying, but also like when you just decrease processed foods and alcohol and dairy or gluten, you tend to see a decrease in symptoms. And basically like, that one correlation, and then you toss that into like the network of influencers, and it's a very simple thing to follow. It's like, yeah, just have meat, which a lot of people like meat, right? It becomes this giant thing, and people are like subscribing like so many magical claims to it. So yeah, carnivore's crazy. I saw this, I don't know if you saw this thing. Did you see the picture of that guy who had like fat in like the creases of his palms from the carnivore diet, and his total cholesterol was over 1,000. Yeah, I'll if you're watching, literally like there's fat nodules. Like when you get like a cut of like Wagyu steak or like whatever, like a ribeye, and you can see the marbleization in the meat. That guy was marbleized from all of the fat that he was consuming.
Side effect.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube or even the Spotify, I'm gonna put it. It's like you're seeing it right now. I'm gonna edit it in. It's gonna be cool. And then Ryan, I'll show you after. It's crazy. It's pretty freaking disgusting actually. When I saw it, I thought I was gonna throw up. Anyways, my favorite or least favorite or weirdest restrictive diet has to be the potato diet. Have you heard of this,
No.
dude?
I'm assuming that you just eat potatoes?
That's it, dude. That's it. You can only
I
eat.
know some people that would actually like that. They'd be like, hell yeah. It's pretty simple, right? So people love rules. Only eat
Yeah,
potatoes. Okay,
literally
so tell
only
me about
eat.
this. Yeah, tell me about this potato diet. Like, what's going on?
So the protocol is you only have potatoes. Like you can have boiled potatoes, you can air fry potatoes, you can I think you can even have like French fries and potato chips. But what ends up happening is like you get so sick of potatoes that like you just automatically decrease your calories, and
Mm-hmm.
so you lose weight. And then it kind of just ended up being like this big like internet trend, and I heard it from a client. She was working on we've been working together for like a long time, and she was really good at like staying consistent, and she would make nutrient dense meals. I was doing like we were doing resistance training protocols and then also doing our nutrition stuff. So she was eating very healthy, like she would do like shrimp and some salad and a little bit of carbs. And then her husband was doing the potato diet. And
Oh, he was
I
actually
was,
doing it.
yeah, he was actually doing it.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was like interesting because like she would, eat like really beautiful looking plates and healthy stuff. And then I think he would have like chips or just like
And
mashed potatoes.
like how long did he do it for? How long are people doing it for?
It's like I think however long you can go like
Dude, yeah.
with it, but I think it's like sketch because like you're not getting any like protein really. I mean you get a little bit, but it's barely anything. I think yeah, I don't know if people do it longer than like 30 days, right? I think a lot of people
Even
just
that,
do
dude,
it.
even that. That's crazy. Even that,
Yeah,
dude.
a lot of people just do it to lose like the initial whatever 10 pounds
Sure.
or something, and then I think they're just like there's no way I could do this, but there is a potato diet subreddit with 2,600 members. So if you guys want to check that out,
If you guys
you
want
guys
to
should.
join.
If you guys want to hit that, I mean, dude, if someone was like, you can have unlimited chips, that's nice. I would do that, but I would lose a lot of muscle. But anyways, yeah. So we're not going to be advocating for any restrictive diets. Instead, we're going to be talking about a sustainable approach to fat loss. And the sustainable approach isn't just about what you eat. It's also about how you think about planning and preparing your meals and being strategic around your behaviors and your habits. So, I think Ryan, you're really good at starting with the big picture stuff because you do the majority of the nutrition coaching with our clients. So give me the secret sauce. Like what's the number one biggest thing that helps with fat loss when it comes to nutrition?
Yeah, I'd say the exact opposite of said potato diet. Um, okay, so when we're talking about fat loss and nutrition, I usually talk about it in like a pyramid of importance. Okay, I usually start with the most important factor, and it actually is sustainability and adherence. What I mean by that is think about when you're starting a new diet, when you're like programming your diet, when you're writing out your diet, think about how long you can do it. Like, how long can you do it for? Is it something that you can actually do long term? Is it something that you can stick to? Or even just like, is it simple and easy? Like you might think like, oh, just only eat potatoes. Like that's simple, right? It's not. Once you go to a social event, once like life gets hard, once you have cravings, all these things, like that's a big thing too, is life is going to happen. You can't just pause your life. You can't just stop going to work and just put your life on hold and all your stress and all that stuff just to diet, right? So that's first and foremost on the like pyramid of importance. Make sure that you can actually stick to it. So one thing that we say a lot in our coaching is aim for consistency and sustainability instead of perfection. So that's really important when it comes to dieting, really important for fat loss. You don't need a perfect diet, you just need a diet that you can actually stick to. Because, like I said, real life is going to get in the way. You're going to have a stressful event, not to be like pessimistic or anything. But can you still hear me, Milad? Okay, okay, okay. Um, not
Yeah,
to be
yeah. I was just
pessimistic,
muting
but
it so we don't hear the background vocals
it was
stuff.
actually kind of it was actually kind of nice, like some white
Oh, should I
noise in
keep
my
it?
ears. Yeah, keep
All right,
it,
let's
man.
keep
I
let's
kind
keep
of
it.
like this is kind of yeah, it's kind of soothing.
Hell yeah!
Uh,
All right.
no, but life is gonna get in the way. You're gonna have some sort of stressful event, and why not set your diet up that is just something simple and easy? And we're gonna get into that. We're gonna help you guys make a simple and easy diet that you can actually stick to. But that's first and foremost, simplicity. The best diet is the one that you can actually follow when life gets really tough and hard. And we actually talked about this in our last episode. You guys should check that one out. It's all about fat loss, workouts, and workout planning, workout programs for fat loss. But Milad talked about a pretty rigid diet that he went on called the slow carb diet. And in that episode, like I said, check it out. But basically, in summary, Milad picked a pretty restrictive diet. It was basically like no carbs, beans only, basically. Um, then he was at work, and he'd been doing it for like what, 3 months or something, probably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. About 12 weeks.
Yeah, and just whatever it was, you're stressed out, or the cravings were hitting pretty hard, and you just got burnt out of that diet, and you're like, I need to eat all the bread in the world. So take it from us, pick a very simple and easy diet that you can follow.
Yeah,
That's first and foremost.
and it's not even like what tends to happen is you'll see a quick period of success and you'll lose the weight, but there's nothing to help you keep that up as soon as you're done with being like, okay, I'm going to stop losing weight, right? And what tends to happen if you don't have those protocols in place, you just gain it all back, whether it be fast or slow. Which in my case, I did it fast. I was like restricting myself, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to stop. But I wasn't like, okay, I'm just going to have a little bit of baguette. No, I ate like 2 to 3 baguettes per shift, and in a couple weeks I was back to where I started. So we're gonna, after listening to this podcast, you'll have the tools in the toolkit to not do that like I did.
Okay, so after just having that mindset, that frame of mind of like, okay, I need to pick something that I could actually do long term. Um, what is important for setting up your diet? So also understanding that, so just from an educational point of view, calories is going to be super, super important. We talk about energy balance. So calories being the unit of energy. So if your goal is fat loss, you need to consume less energy or consume less calories than you burn on average. Okay, so that's very important. So calories are important. I'm sure you probably heard that. I'm sure you may or may not already know that, but just to get that out of the way, calories are very important. How to control your calories. So we're going to talk about different methods of how to control your calories and how to actually get into that calorie deficit. One thing that we'll talk about first is calorie tracking. So using like an app like MyFitnessPal, Macro Factor, Lose It, Chronometer, any tracking, calorie tracking app out there will suffice. So that's one method that we're going to talk about, and we'll talk about it right now. So how to set up your calorie deficit. So what you're going to do is you need to find what's called your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure. It's just how many calories you burn in a day. And that includes your exercise, your walking around, your metabolism, everything. So TDEE. figure that out by just going online and just Google that TDEE calculator. And I think even there's a website called tdecalculator.net or something. But just do a quick Google search. You're going to enter in some information, your age, weight, activity level, things like that. And then it's going to spit out a number. So let's say it's going to spit out 2,500. So what that is, that number, 2,500, is the amount of calories that it takes to just stay the same weight, to maintain your current weight. Consume that amount of calories, 2,500 on average, to maintain your same weight. Am I going too fast? You got everything? You writing this down, Milad?
Yeah, I think we can actually even show, like, I think I could share my screen and show the TDEE calculator. So while you're, I would say continue.
Oh, I didn't know that we could share screen. Share that screen, baby.
Yeah, let me show. Here we go. Oh, sorry about that.
Awkward.
Here we go. TDE. Okay, so
that's the one. That's the one.
Can you see it?
Okay, so let's. Yeah.
Let's do me.
Let's enter your age.
32, 196. 5. No, just kidding. 6'1", brother. Sedentary. Okay, so
here's the thing.
This is an interesting one. Yeah, hit me with it.
Yeah, I always lowball it because people often overestimate their activity level, and we underestimate how many calories we actually consume. So let's. You're very active, so let's see our options.
So we have light exercise, moderate exercise. So light exercise 1 to 2 times a week, moderate exercise 3 to 5 times a week, heavy 6 to 7, and athlete. So
your screen might be frozen actually.
Oh really? Shit.
Oh no. Okay, no, I see your mouse. Click on it.
I think. Yeah, I don't think it's like it might.
Okay.
You might see it delayed, but I think like when the videos actually, when people are actually watching it, it's going down. So like I'm over.
The truth. What do you think your true activity level is?
If I was doing this for myself, I basically I train 6 times a week, right? But sometimes I'll do like a 13-mile run or 20-mile run. So I would even that being said, I'm gonna hit light exercise. So 1 to 2 days a week, and then I'm gonna hit calculate, and then it pops out and it says my maintenance calories is 2,600 to maintain my weight here. And this website's cool because it has like ideal weight, BMI score, things like that, and then it also gives me some other options, right? If I wanted to have a moderate carbohydrate diet, low carb diet, higher carb diet, it gives me the macro breakdown for that, and then I can go, if I'm like, hey, I want to lose some weight, I want to cut, and then it'll also recommend some options in those same categories. Specifically for me, it's saying that I should probably be eating around 2,100 calories per day, which is a 500 calorie per day deficit from my maintenance. A little bit on the more aggressive side, but still, 2,100, doable. So this is a pretty good tool to get you started, but there are some caveats. So, and I know that Ryan's probably going to tell you the caveats right now.
Okay, yes. So, but let's back up just a little bit though. Let's start with your maintenance calories. So we have 2,600 calories to maintain the same weight. The thing is, and you were talking about caveats, is that's just, we just put in some numbers. We just put in your height, your weight, your age, and then like this estimated activity level. Like this number is not exact. It's just based off an equation and like these estimated numbers that we just input. So take that number for what it is, take it with a grain of salt. But we can use it to our advantage. It's a really good tool, okay? So it's not perfect, but we can use it for what it is. Okay, now we have your maintenance calories, and so now we need to talk about, well, how much of a deficit are we going into? Okay, so Milad mentioned on the website, it recommends, taking away 500 calories. What I actually do instead is I like to start out, well, it depends client to client, it depends person to person, but in general, what I like to do is take a 20% deficit from your maintenance. So let's go 2,600, we're gonna multiply that by 0.8, and we get 2,080. From there, it's actually pretty dang accurate. So what I would do is probably round it up to 2,100. So it's the exact same number actually, which is kind of cool. So I took a 20% deficit, 2,100, and that is the amount of calories that we are saying that Milad should be consuming on average per day in order to lose body fat. So it's not perfect, but it's a great starting point, right? Okay,
Yeah.
from there, you good? Any questions, Mr. Milad?
No. I'm gonna get out of
Okay,
this. There we go.
okay. From there, next you use whatever app that you want to use. Okay. Use whatever app that you want to use. Like we talked about, there's MyFitnessPal, there's Macro Factor, Lose It, Chronometer, or you could sign up for coaching with us, and we have a built-in calorie tracker on the app that we use.
Hell yeah, we
But
do.
you start entering your calories. You weigh your food. If you're weighing, you make estimates. If you go out to a restaurant, you just make your best guess, things like that. Now, troubleshooting. So like we said, that number isn't going to be perfect. It's like kind of an estimate. But now you just that's your input is like the amount of calories that you're consuming. Your output is things like weight. We'll talk about progress later on, but analyze your weight. And if you're like, hey, I'm like tracking my calories like perfectly and I'm not losing weight, like what is going on? First off, like be patient, make sure not to just do it for like 2 days. And you're like, why isn't this working after 2 days? Like your weight is going to fluctuate up and down. That's normal. That's part of the process. Your weight is going to go up a pound, down a pound, up half a pound, down half a pound. So make sure, what I would recommend is doing that for like a week or two, probably 2 weeks, and just analyzing data, just seeing what's going on. If after 2 weeks, if like your average weight isn't going down, okay, let's make an adjustment. What I would say is maybe decrease it by another 5% or 10%, just given the situation, given how many calories you have to play, right? If your deficit is at like 2,600, okay, you have some more calories to kind of play around with. But if you're setting your calories already pretty low, okay, maybe don't reduce calories. Maybe look at some other stuff, energy expenditure, how many steps you're getting, how often you're working out, things like that. So tracking calories, it's a tool, like we said, it's one of the many tools. I think my view on tracking calories is it for everyone? No, not necessarily. I think that it can be an educational tool. So I don't think that you have to do it forever and ever, but you can learn a lot of things along the way. You can learn about, that meal over there probably has about 1,000 calories or like 700 calories, like give or take, or that meal probably has like X amount of protein. You're going to gain that skill over time. So I think tracking calories, a good method, a good tool. Do you have to do it forever? No. Is it for everybody? No. So yeah, one of the tools that you can use for fat loss, tracking calories. One of many. What other methods you got?
I think there's a couple other things you could do in addition to tracking calories, but a couple things I wanted to just like touch on after your spiel. Basically, like it's important to start off with a less deep or severe caloric deficit, because I think that's a big takeaway for me. Even like a lot of people just start with the least amount of food that they can eat, which works against them in two ways. A, it's you're starting the video game on difficult mode, the hardest difficulty, and then B, when things aren't moving in the right direction, when you're weighing in and you're checking your body composition, you have nowhere to go. You're like, man, I'm already eating in a place of scarcity, and I don't know if I could drop it any further down, right? And more than likely, there's going to be moments where you weigh in or you're checking your weight and there's some sort of plateau or it moves in the wrong direction. I've only seen maybe like out of the, hundreds of people that we've worked with at this point, like I've only seen maybe a handful of folks where every single time they were checking in with their body composition, whether it be their weight or their body circumference, that it was just moving straight down, right? And usually those folks are like starting at a lot heavier weights, like they're obese. So it's a little bit easier to lose that weight. So yeah, very, very important. So give yourself some breathing room. And that works into the whole sustainability thing where it's like, we're not just doing this for 30 days and calling it quits. It's like, no, this is going to be at least like at a minimum a 6-month thing. So just kind of rewire expectations and understand it's going to take a while, but that's on purpose to basically improve your quality of life during this process and to give us tools in the toolkit to troubleshoot, because like we said initially, like it's gonna go to shit eventually, right? Things happen, things pop up in life, and there's gonna be times where you have to either take a break or you're not able to follow your nutrition protocol. In terms of other means of like losing weight without actually tracking your calories, there's actually quite a few that are pretty impressive, and they work relatively well. So what we always kind of recommend is not always recommend, but something that you could do is a little bit more of like the qualitative approach. So what that would look like is most people understand how much they're eating, like in terms of what their plates look like or what portions they're selecting, right? So what you can even do before you're starting your diet, if you're taking this qualitative approach, one whole week, just eat like you normally do, right? And take a picture of every single meal that you're eating. And you're not sending it to, this is just for you. Now, the next week, look through all those pictures and in your mind, visualize just eating 20% less out of every single meal. And that's a very, very intuitive, easy, qualitative way to lose weight, because you're just automatically eating 20% less and inevitably you will lose fat. So that's one way. Another thing to kind of focus on is adding in things to your life instead of taking them away. So what does that mean? That means adding in the habit of cooking more at home, because when you eat out, you're not really in control of how much oil is used or what the process of bringing the meal to your table looks like, right? How processed is the food? So when you eat at home and you cook at home, more than likely it's just going to be a less calorically dense meal anyway. So we're adding in the habit or the new skill of learning to cook at home. And another big thing is you can actually eat more food and lose weight. And the way that you do that is you add in more protein, you add in more vegetables, you add in more fruit, and you add in more fiber. And what ends up happening is, because that's so kind of dense in terms of like, or sorry, not dense, but it's so voluptuous. So there's a lot of volume on your plate when you're adding protein and vegetables and fiber and things like that, that you automatically get full longer. And the other thing is, protein is just very satiating in general. So we're adding in more food to lose weight. Obviously, we're not adding in more McDonald's or chips or anything like that, because those are hyper palatable processed foods, and it's really hard to get full on those things. So there's a caveat with that. But those are some ways to kind of make it a little bit easier and not feel like you're just taking things out of your life. Another great way to track your food or create meals without having to track your calories is using a hand portion guide. So actually, we can probably link this at the bottom, but we have this on our app. It's something that we've learned from our certifications with Precision Nutrition. And basically, if you eat like this for every meal, you will more than likely lose weight. So pick 2 palm-sized portions of protein, 1 to 2 fistfuls of vegetables or fruit, and then a half or 1 cupped hand of complex carbs, not simple. But complex carbs. So like things like rice or quinoa or potatoes. Ideally avoiding things like, super sugary processed things. What's an example of that? I don't know, like Oreos. You wouldn't be adding Oreos to your meal, but some people do. I don't know. And then a thumb of healthy breakfast fat. Yeah, or hash browns, something like that, something that's fried. And then you're going to cook it all with like a thumb of healthy fats or like avocado on the side. And again, if you create all your meals like that, you're going to lose weight, or you're going to maintain your weight depending on the composition. And again, I know I already touched on this, but like I want to really talk about the importance of protein. Like protein is king when it comes to fat loss because it works on so many different levels. Level number one, it's super freaking satiating. It's so hard to eat a ton of lean protein, right? Like eating a pound of ground turkey is almost impossible for most folks unless you're drowning it in fat and like sugary sauces. Same thing with chicken breast. And not saying that you can only be eating lean protein sources, like you can mix it up with some fat and things like that, but focus primarily on lean protein sources because A, it's satiating, and B, while you're losing weight, because you're in a caloric deficit, you're inevitably going to maybe lose some muscle, right? So like when you're in a caloric deficit, it means your body doesn't have enough energy to sustain its processes or its activities. So what the body's gonna go do is it's gonna look inward and it's gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna take some of this fat and convert it to energy. If you don't have enough protein floating around in your system, not only is it going to take some of that fat, but it's going to take some of that life-saving functional muscle along with it as well, and we don't want that. So if you have enough protein floating around in your system, your body is going to prioritize the fat over the protein. So that works, for fat loss. So it's satiating, and you keep your muscle, or you gain your muscle, which is super important. And that's another thing with those like GLP-1 inhibitors. So the Ozempics, what they're finding out is the folks that are on Ozempic, because they're not eating as much and they're in pretty like deep caloric deficits, and they're not working out, and they're not able to get enough protein because protein is very satiating. And oftentimes when you're like on those drugs, you just don't have an appetite, so it's really hard to eat a lot of protein. They're just losing a ton of muscle at the same time, which is no bueno. But there are ways to overcome that. You just have to be a little bit selective with what protein sources you're doing. And again, protein-rich diet, super, super important, right? So making a selection, right? Instead of having those Oreos or that pasta, you're opting to have some more protein and some healthy fats instead. And again, back to the volume eating. For me specifically, that's my biggest thing. And maybe some of you can empathize with this. I like to eat a lot of food. Like I just want to feel like I'm full. And when you're on a diet, it's hard to feel like you're full because you're in a caloric deficit. But most of the time when I'm going through a fat loss phase, I actually do feel full for most of my meals. And that's because they're just packed with lean protein and a ton of fruit and veggies, like big giant salads with leafy greens, carrots, snap peas, lentils, just a ton of fruits, veggies, because they're low calorie, they're nutrient dense, and they keep me full. So that's the biggest thing. One last thing to touch on when it comes to the qualitative dieting for fat loss is eat until you're 80% full. That's one of my favorite ones. If you're familiar with the concept of ikigai, it's like this Japanese kind of like way of life or philosophy of living your life. And one of their tenets is to only eat until you're 80% full, because to them, it allows them to kind of move after eating, and it makes them feel full but not too full and appreciative of the meal that they have. And honestly, that's big for me, like just eating until I'm 80% full, especially if I know I'm going to do something after my meal. That's a big thing. And in conjunction with eating until you're 80% full, you can also mess around with how fast you're eating, right? So most people don't know this, but there is actually a delay of your hunger hormones when it comes to the signaling of your appetite and your satiation from your satiety. There it is. That's a hard one. So basically, like, let's say I'm eating my plate, right? And then I'm done eating, and I ate it super fast, but I still feel hungry. That's because there's a 20-minute delay from my stomach to my brain telling me that I'm full. So what you want to do is you want to slow down the process. So what you can think about is, take a bite, put the fork or spoon down, take a breath, and then eat again. So that slows down the process and it allows that discrepancy between your stomach and your brain and those hormones to kind of catch up with each other. So then you actually understand if you're full or you need to eat more food. So that slow eating works with that. And then same with that 80%. So like sometimes I'll just, especially when I'm out going out to a restaurant, because you don't know what's in the food or how calorically dense it is, I'll make sure that I don't eat until I'm fully stuffed. And I just hang out, maybe have some tea, whatever. And typically what ends up happening is initially I'm like, man, I could probably have a couple more bites or some dessert. But if I wait for 20 minutes drinking water, drinking some hot tea, after that I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm good. And the bonus is I usually get super sleepy after eating a shit ton of food. And if I eat until I'm 80% full, I'm no longer sleepy and I can go hang out after dinner or whatever. So yeah, that was the biggest thing. So to review, focus on eating out less, making food at home. And if you want to kind of track your calories without actually tracking your calories, do the whole macro hand portion size thing. There's a PDF that's going to be down here at the bottom in wherever you're finding this. That's going to have a nice little, infograph on how you can create meals just using your palms. And then prioritize your protein and your fruits and veggies. Eat slow, eat until you're 80% full. So those are the biggest things, like caloric deficit, whether it be tracking your calories or going the qualitative route. But there is a couple more things when it comes to dieting, especially sustainable nutrition for fat loss. So half of it is being a caloric deficit, whether that be tracking or not tracking. But then the other half is recovery and behaviors and habits and things like that. So, and I know Ryan, you've been working on your sleep. I texted you at 4:30 a.m. The other day, and I was like, bro, what's your sleep strategy? What's your sleep stack? And then you sent me like a very curated set of recommendations, which I definitely need. But let's educate the folks on stress and sleep when it comes to fat loss.
Speaking of you texting at 4:30 in the morning, if I have a notification at that time, I know it's from you. I actually get excited when I see it because I know you're probably like drinking coffee and your like mind is firing and you're just gonna say like something very, I don't know, like revolutionary or just it's whatever it is. It's like a good idea. I'm like, oh, Milad is gonna fire off some like good ideas right now. So I get excited for those 4:30 a.m. texts.
Damn, I love that.
But anyways, okay, so far what we have done in this conversation is we've essentially been talking about that pyramid of importance for nutritional or for fat loss when it comes to nutrition. So we started off by saying make sure that it's sustainable and that you could actually like stick to it for a while. Number 2 is calories. So we talked about tracking calories. You have to be in a calorie deficit for fat loss, but we talked about tracking, and then Milad talked about a bunch of different methods there too. And then we talked about protein, the importance of protein, and I would even batch protein and just fruits and veggies, right? Or you basically called it volume eating. So I would say that is the next level after calories. Then above that is the other things too. Yeah, we're talking about recovery and things like that. So specifically stress and sleep. You are going to be so much more successful if you just dial in your stress and your sleep. And it's important to know too that like focus on what you can control. There's a lot of things in life that you cannot control. If you just look at your life and think like, okay, what can I control? I'm very stressed out right now. What can and can't I control? Focus on what you can control. But I think it is an important topic to talk about when talking about fat loss is stress and sleep. So it's not technically nutrition, but they do impact just everything. So stress and sleep specifically affect your hunger hormones. Okay, so if you are very stressed, I've talked to people and we have clients that stress affects your hunger in two different ends of the spectrum. Like some people, when they're super stressed, they get very hungry and the cravings go up and they just eat everything in sight. But other people, when they're super stressed, they don't eat anything. Do you ever experience that?
Yeah.
What do you do?
If I'm very stressed or I'm going through some shit, I won't eat. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I know plenty of other people are the same way, but others, the cravings go up and they just eat everything in sight. Maybe it's like a coping mechanism for some people, right?
Yeah. It's funny because Do Better Fitness, my cousin, he's the opposite. He like eats. So and he always eats very healthy, but like we kind of have like a shared pantry and we're roommates. For people that don't know, but basically sometimes I'll just open that thing up and there's like cookies and chips and stuff. I'm like, oh damn, better ask Dari if she's doing okay.
Yeah, 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 right.
Yeah.
So, do what you can. Try to dial in your stress. Like tools that I use and you probably use Milad and some of our clients use, like journal some things out, do a brain dump, just like write out like whatever's on your mind, just like get it out, or talk to somebody, talk to a friend, a family member, go for a walk outside. Just just be aware, even being aware of it. So every week in our coaching service, we ask these things. What is your stress level? 1 to 10 this week. What is your sleep? 1 to 10. Your sleep quality and quantity, because these things are important. They really, really affect your diet. They affect the result of your fat loss phase. So dial in your stress as much as you can. Um, Poor sleep, yeah, it can create cravings. It can affect your hunger hormones. If you're chronically stressed, you're going to get higher cortisol, which equals more cravings. So, like I said, journal, talk to somebody, meditate. Meditate is a powerful tool that we use. Um, for sleep, you can set a consistent bedtime routine. That's one thing for me personally I've gotten a lot better at recently, like this past year or so, just really trying to dial in my sleep. And I was telling you, I showed you the other day, and like I don't know the science behind it. I don't know if it's like BS or whatever, but I got those like blue light blocker glasses.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I've been wearing them, like I don't know if they play an effect. I kind of look goofy wearing them, but I'm just trying to dial in my sleep.
Does that work?
Um,
Did it help, you think, or no?
I've been having good sleep. Like my sleep's been pretty
That's
good.
good, dude.
So, and like,
It's
I don't
valuable.
know if it's specific to that or I don't know, but yeah, I've also been like journaling before bed, like meditating before bed, things like that. So it could
Yeah.
be a number of things, but I'm telling you guys, stress and sleep are important. And like, it's funny because some of our clients, I can tell, like I ask about stress and sleep like every week, and sometimes I see the look on their face like, why are you asking about like stress and sleep? But because I'm telling you, it's like directly correlated. We have clients that get really, really stressed out, and like, what happens? They snack more, they give into cravings more, and it's just a good idea. Try to lower your stress, increase your sleep. Um, I mean, I even remember too, like, let's say, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, you hear about these things, right? People talk about it, like, oh, dial in your stress and sleep, but being like a meathead who just wants to like go to the gym and like lift heavy weights, you think like that doesn't affect me or anything. But like I'm telling you, the minute you really focus on those things, you're going to get a lot better results, and the process is going to be easier. It's going to be easier for you to focus on your diet and adhere to it. So yeah, that's I think it's important to talk about that. Yeah, I don't know. Would
Yeah.
you add anything to stress and sleep? Anything there?
Yeah, and I think I would just say one thing that helps with stress and sleep is exercise. And that's also going to help with you staying in that caloric deficit. So,
Hmm.
exercise, move your body, go on walks, lift weights, run, row, whatever. That's definitely going to help. I mean, my favorite thing to hear is when I take on new clients and then, they'll do their workouts and like, man, I haven't slept like this since I was
Mm.
like in college or something. Because they've been sedentary, right? And that was the missing link. You just need to work out and you'll sleep amazing. I also think that like room temperature is big, so make sure your room is the appropriate temperature for you. Most people prefer colder rooms, so that's another thing. But yeah, I mean, stress and sleep, it's underrated, but it's almost like the foundation, especially the older you get. And I can say that single-handedly. Like, when I get a good night's sleep, and last night was pretty decent. Like, I think I went to bed at like 9:30, woke up again at like 10:40, and then went back at 11. I did 11 till 5, so I would give myself like a 7 hours, but like it was high quality. And today I feel good. Like I was like up and working, and then saw a client, 6 mile run. Right before this I shot, edited, finished a video for the Instagrams. We're doing a podcast, then I'm doing check-ins, then I'm filming another video, and I have 2 in-person clients, 2 check-in calls, and then I'm done. And I feel good. Usually by this time, it's like 2 p.m., I would be like, oh man, I need a nap. Or like I would just be glazing over in this conversation. But I feel good when I get good sleep. So sleep is muy importante. And then the other part of this whole thing that's going to help you stay consistent throughout this whole process and successfully lose weight and lose fat is planning and preparing. So you want to take as much guesswork out of this process as you can. So the less you have to guess, the more you're going to win, as they say. So biggest thing is just like having some form of planning out your meals and preparing them in advance. It can be as abstract as like, I'm going to have a nutrient-dense meal with 2 fistfuls of protein on a bed of salad with some avocado, and I'm going to cook that with olive oil. And I know that I'm going to do that at least 5 times. Or it's going to be like, I am prepping every single meal ahead of time, and I know exactly what's going into it. Most people fall somewhere in that spectrum. For example, I'm kind of in the less is more category. So my version of meal prep is when I'm cooking dinner, and I cook dinner at least like Monday through Thursday night, I'm cooking dinner. And so what I do Monday through Thursday night is I make at least 2 to 3 extra portions of everything as meal prep. And so I'm ready to go the next day. I have my lunch, and then for breakfast, I will usually make a smoothie, which is super fast, but I know that I'm going to have the smoothie. I'm not like, oh, what should I make? It's like, no, we're going to make the smoothie with this and this. Or I'll make overnight oats, which again is super easy, and you can prep that for 5 days and it still tastes good. In addition to that, when you're going out to a restaurant, that's a big like anxiety-inducing thing for a lot of folks, especially when they're like, okay, I'm very type A, I've been controlling everything, I'm weighing in, I'm losing weight, but oh no, I have to go to like a bachelor party, or like it's a baby shower, or we're doing this thing at a restaurant. It's like, hey, take a deep breath. You can figure this out, right? Most restaurants have their menu online somewhere, or you can go on Google or Yelp or whatever and see what everyone's having. And it's an easy thing to just plan and be like, okay, I'm going to have, the salad with the protein, or I'm going to have, the Buddha bowl, or what have you. Sometimes you're going to go somewhere, you're going to go to like a fish and chips place, or you're going to go to somewhere where you can't necessarily eat healthy, and that's okay. In that case, practice the qualitative stuff. Eat slow, eat until you're 80% full, walk before dinner, walk after dinner. Boom, easy. And again, going back to the original thought, we're not shooting for perfection, we're shooting for consistency. So that means you're 80% on the money, 20% you're going to whatever, the French fry place, or you're having fried Oreos at the fair. Like that's totally okay. Again, reject the all or nothing mindset. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be damn good, and that's 80%. So that's the biggest thing. You can look up meals for inspiration if you need healthy stuff. I mean, there's so many like meal prep options out there. You scroll anywhere on the Instagrams or the YouTubes, you'll find great recipes for free. It's not that hard. Hit up ChatGPT. It's relatively easy. So if you do all of those things correctly, you're going to lose weight, right? And again, it's not just about what you're eating. It's how you're planning for it. It's your mindset along the way. And another important thing is how you're tracking your progress. That actually plays a role. So how do you typically like to kind of coach folks when it comes to tracking fat loss progress, Ryan?
So everything we've talked about, I a lot of the times I look at this stuff as data. We have an input and an output, right? The input is everything that we've talked about. Input is like the diet and the exercise, right? What is the output? It's the progress. So what are some good ways to track progress? We have the obvious one. We have weight. And when we talk about weight, I think it's a good idea to note, should you weigh yourself every day? That's a good question to ask. It depends on the person. It depends on your relationship with the scale. In general, I would say yes, weigh yourself every day. At the same time, first thing in the morning after going to the bathroom, But if you have, like a seriously, negative relationship with the scale, like for example, if you become like super obsessed with the scale, right? That's not going to be productive. If you are super, super anxious every single morning, like weighing yourself, okay, let's find a better strategy for that. Like let's not weigh yourself every day. I've had clients weigh themselves like 3 times a week or once a week or stuff like that. But I, in general, typically like weighing in every day because of the fact that your weight is going to fluctuate day to day. And so your weight is going to go up, it's going to go down, going to go up, going to go down. Your weight loss journey is not linear, it's full of fluctuations. And what's nice, if you weigh yourself every day, you can see that pattern. You can take the average, you can take the weekly average and focus more on the weekly average. A lot of people I recommend use this app called Happy Scale. Happy Scale is a cool app because you can kind of set it and forget it. You put in your daily weight and it uses this like algorithm to smooth out the line, and it just shows you like your weekly average, and it shows you the trend. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it staying the same or whatnot? So that's Happy Scale, pretty good app there. So weighing yourself, that's one form of progress, kind of the obvious one. There is also progress photos. So, like weekly progress photos or monthly progress photos. That's another way to see some changes going on. Um, like, for example, sometimes like you can weigh the same, for a month or 2 months, but you look at the photos, you look back, and you're like, holy crap, like I can definitely see a difference in my midsection or my arms. I can see a difference. It's like right there in front of me. But the scale's the same. And what's nice about that is it can keep you motivated. It can keep you going. So we have your weight, progress photos. You can also directly track your body fat percentage, whether that be, there's some cool scales these days that show your body fat percentage. And what I would say there is it the most accurate? No. But you can use it to compare. You can use it to compare like last week's body fat percentage or last month's to this month's, etc. There is like InBody, there's DEXA, so you can make an appointment to use those types of services. And what those are is it just tracks your body fat percentage along with other measurements like lean muscle
Yeah.
mass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
If you can do a
did you have
DEXA,
something to say
that's
about
the,
that? Yeah.
yeah, like if you can
Yeah.
get, if you can do a DEXA, that's probably the best one to use because it's basically like an X-ray, but for like fat mass and lean tissue and even your bone density. So there's a lot of helpful data points there, and a lot of times, like you said, right, you'll be eating healthy and you'll be exercising, and after 4 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe you lose a pound, maybe you've stayed the same, but you know that you're fitting in your clothes better. You know that your shoulders look more toned or your stomach looks more toned and your circumference is down. If you were to go on the DEXA, you would see a big shift. You'd be like, oh wow, I actually lost 2 pounds of fat and I gained 2 pounds of muscle or 3 pounds of muscle. So that's a big thing, especially if you're just starting out with a combination of resistance training and dieting. You'll have this thing that'll happen. It's called recomposition, right? Body recomposition. So you're losing fat and you're gaining muscle. That's an amazing thing. It's kind of like the holy trinity. But if, like Ryan said, if you're only focused on one form of measurement, which is the scale, then it might not be great because you're like, wow, I only lost 1 pound or I haven't lost anything like after all that hard work. So again, it's important to start with the correct expectations, educate yourself on what's happening, and take as many data points as you can. Like that's huge, right? Like data in equals data out. Like that's going to be reassuring and help you stay sane throughout the process.
Yeah, that's a great point. Don't just take one form of measurement. Don't just focus on one thing. Like, yeah, that's a common mistake is just focusing on the weight. And like what you said, a potential outcome could be body recomposition. You could be successfully losing body fat and gaining lean muscle mass. Like that's awesome. That is like really, really cool, but it doesn't show up on the scale. And then you might doubt yourself, like I don't know if I'm, going in the right direction. You might doubt yourself. You're like, should I change my program and whatnot? And then you're not consistent. And yeah, just good idea to take a multiple progress indicators at a time. So Yeah, weight, progress photos. You can measure yourself weekly or monthly. Like with a tape measure, that's another form of progress. Like Milad mentioned, how your clothes fit. Um, there's other things too. Energy level, like are you feeling like super energetic? That's a sign of good outcome. Digestion, look at your digestion. Are things digesting correctly and naturally, and you're feeling good? Or are you feeling bloated? Um, so again, just remember don't just focus on the scale. It's a tool. It's a pretty good tool, but it's just not. It's don't put all your eggs in one basket. And then just a reminder too, the scale is going to fluctuate. It is going to go up. That's a very important thing to remember. It's not linear. Your weight is not going to decrease every single day. It's going to go up. It's going to stay the same for 3 days. It's going to go up for 3 days. But just uh, um, stay consistent. And like we mentioned, it's an input and an output. And hey, if we do all the things correctly and we're not seeing good progress, and we looked at everything and you're not seeing good results after a couple weeks, okay, change the input, change something around. Do we have to change the diet? Do we have to change the exercise protocol? Are you consistent? Are you consistently tracking your calories, or whatever method that you are choosing? Are you doing that correctly? um, and that mindset can kind of help calm you down a little bit, because I think a lot of people like freak out if they don't see progress, like immediately or something. It's like, it's all good, just change the input, we're good, just change the input, change something around your diet, and we'll be fine. um, so yeah, I think that is a good place to kind of put a pin on our pyramid of importance. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Basically, focus on consistency over perfection. Keep it simple. You know, understand, set the expectation that this is not a 30-day challenge. This is at a minimum 6 months, and figure out how you're going to track, whether that be through calories or you're going to do a qualitative way with your hands or through pictures. Focus on improving your stress and your sleep throughout the whole process. And also, like, set up some sort of accountability, right? Whether that be with your significant other at home, with your friends. Let people know that you're doing this, so that they can kind of support you along the way. And if you need someone to help you with this, right, a nutrition coach that'll set up your workouts, your nutrition, your meals in accordance to you and your life, to help you sustainably lose weight and teach you everything that we're talking about, but in detail, and checking on you every single week. We provide that one-on-one coaching, link down below. And then we also have our longevity app, which is a little bit more hands-off, but we have a lot of fat loss courses and fat loss programs in there too. It's free for 30 days, then $19 after that. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. There's a lot of bullshit out there when it comes to fat loss. Like, people are, selling you things that don't actually work. But it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's just more so the execution that's important. And it's a marathon, not a sprint with the fat loss. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. So anything miscellaneous here for the week that you're focusing on, reading or events on your end?
I'm excited to cruise up to San Francisco, and I'm gonna be driving with
Nice.
our friend Ari. Of course, you know that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to spend time up there. I'm gonna take my mom out to a hockey game on Saturday, so looking forward. It's gonna be a good weekend. What about you?
That's awesome. That is a good weekend. Yeah, I'm looking forward to you guys coming tomorrow. I have been reading this new book called Tiny Experiments. Did I already talk about this or no? Did I
I
talk
don't
about
think so.
Tiny
No, no,
Experiments?
no.
Okay,
Uh-uh.
cool. Yeah, so Tiny Experiments, it's about this neuroscientist, or it's written by a neuroscientist who used to work at Google. She was like very successful, but then she found herself to be like burnt out and really kind of over it, even though she was leading like a perfect life. So she kind of quit, and then she went and studied neuroscience and created this new protocol of like working and viewing life. And it's basically like really focusing on the process instead of the outcome, which is what we preach all the time. But it really dives into like reframing everything. So instead of like thinking about your goals or your KPIs or your outcomes, you're just like, okay, process, process, process. And I want to emphasize fun and experimentation and just doing things a little bit differently. So it's very interesting because, you know,
What's it called?
it's called Tiny Experiments. Yeah, I don't know what the full thing is, but it's really good. The one thing that I did today from it, so basically like there's a chapter on procrastination, and she talks about how like when it comes to procrastination, it manifests in 3 different places, whether that be in your head, your heart, or your hand. So if procrastination is happening in your head, it means that you don't think that whatever task you're supposed to do is appropriate, right? So like for me, for example, like if you're like, hey, or if I tell myself like, oh, I should probably look up how to do a new form of accounting. I'm going to procrastinate on that because like I don't think that's appropriate for me. I'm just going to outsource it. If it's in my heart, I don't think that the task is exciting or stimulating. And so my solution to that would be to redesign the experience. Basically, today I was like trying to script out a new video for social media, and I usually do it at my desk, and every time I do it, I just get like really sad and depressed because I'm like looking at other people's posts or what's popular, and it's like, this shit is so garbage. Like, it's just lies, and it makes me feel gross because I don't even like being on social media anyways. So instead, I went over to the couch today with like my iPad and my computer, and then I was just more so looking at my own posts, what was working, and I put some music on, and I did it. It was a breeze. It felt good. And then the hand is, you don't think that the task is like doable. Like you don't have the support or the skill. And the solution there is to just like focus on getting better at it. So like for me, it could be, you know, I want to write a song and I'm stuck between the verse and the chorus. I don't know how to make the transition. And the reason I don't go back to keep making that song is because I don't have the skill yet. So I'm going to go look up a YouTube video on how to make transitions. So just having that framework is like super helpful, and that's just like one part of it. So I've been focusing on, you know, adding in some fun and experimentation to my day-to-day, especially Monday through Friday, just so things aren't monotonous or boring or, you know, getting stale. So I recommend it.
I love that. That's cool. Yeah, I wrote it down.
Hell yeah, dude. Sweet. Well, thank you all for listening. If you have any questions, comment, message, all that fun stuff. And until next time, we shall see you then.
Peace. Thank you, guys.